The CASA program is court-appointed special advocates for the children that are in foster care. A lot of people will refer to it as we represent the kids that are in the system. They don't necessarily have to be in a foster home, but they do have to be a child in need of services. A child in need of services would be a child that needs potentially protection from whoever their caregiver is. It could be protection from them because they are abused or neglected. Maybe the neglect would consist of no food, no shelter. The abuse would be physical abuse, emotional abuse, or sexual abuse, and that would entail them to be a child in need of services.
We have a legal process in Indiana, as all states do, to become involved with families and become involved with those children. In very simple terms, CASA is one more resource that the child welfare system has to do what's best for children, and probably the biggest advocate, or the most significant or most powerful advocate for those children.
A CASA volunteer is someone who gives their time for free. They're a volunteer for the program to go out and see the kids, and they focus in on what the child needs and wants. They'll ask the child how things are going, talk to the child. They're really the person there for the child while they're in the system.
There's a minimum requirement. We ask that you go through the training, and that's 30 hours of training, and that includes at least 3 hours of courtroom observation. But once you become a CASA and you're assigned a case, we ask that you see the child at least once a month. Reports will be needed as they go into court. There's different courtroom hearings that will require a report from the CASA.
We oversee the volunteer. We're there to help support them. We help them with their paperwork. The reports are handed in to us. We approve them, and then we give them to Kelly because she has to sign off on them. We're their support system.
And so basically what I do is I make sure that all of our volunteers that are assigned to me basically know when their court dates are, know anything, have any questions, need any assistance. If they can't make it to court because of work or whatever, I'll fill in for them in court, help them write their documents that they need for court, stuff like that.
When we recruit a new volunteer, we explain to them that it's very important that they are committing to a case for the life of the case. Typically, the life of a case from start to finish is about 23, 24 months. So if somebody doesn't think that they can maintain a case for at least that amount of time, then we ask them to kind of hold off until they can.
So currently, there are 305 children waiting on a CASA volunteer. We have served 119 this year and currently serving 88. There are 21 that we have worked with to close out their cases. The numbers indicate to you that there's a great need in Scott County for our volunteers. We can only reach so many with this limited amount of volunteers as we have. And there are so many opportunities to help these children become a better person in life.
We are always looking for more volunteers. We would need about 75 more volunteers to cover the remainder of the cases. And I say that many because a volunteer only takes on 1 or 2 cases at a time. They don't take on a whole caseload like a case manager would at the Department of Child Services.
We have approximately 35 active volunteers.
CASA represents the children in court. DCS has a lawyer, that's for them. The parents have a lawyer, but the children have not had a lawyer. That's the one thing that spoke to me. I didn't realize that. You know, that spoke to me when Carol told me about that the CASAs could speak for the children and say what they wanted. So I think that's the most important thing, is especially for the older ones. So to me, foster children have to have a representative, you know, in court especially, so they can have a voice. Well, I was assigned by the judge to be her CASA and her other sibling to be CASA for them. And that started in 2013. She was 4 when I met her.
It was exciting, and I was excited to have someone by my side to help me.
We talked about it on our first date. Would we adopt? And he said yes, and then it took us about 5 years to get back on the same page. And then I said we either need to do it or we're not. So we got licensed. And from the start of getting licensed to actually moving her home with us was 9 months. The one thing that was really disappointing in this process was how her voice wasn't taken into account directly. So the only way to get her voice heard was indirectly, and that was through Sheila. And I always felt that she was in the right place, so I knew she was in our corner, but I also knew that she was going to do what was best for Lila, and that's what mattered the most to us. And without her there, I don't know if it would have gone differently, but I can guess that it would have. We met her at our interview. We were given the impression that she really was the one making the decision. Like, she was the one who was most involved with Lila, and that she was the one who was interviewing us and another family and would really be taking into account who would be the best fit for her. And even to this day, she stayed involved and present, and it's been really nice for all of us because she put our family together.
If someone isn't able to volunteer their time to actually take on a case, in order for us to be able to function and have a CASA program at all, we have to have funds. So to have those funds, we rely a lot on grants that we receive through the year and also on our annual campaign that we do every year. Through the annual campaign, we're able to raise enough funds to typically cover the cost of one of our part-time staff, which is great. We could always use more though. As we grow our volunteer base, we'll have to grow our staff to be able to support those volunteers, which means we'll need more funds to cover the costs. So if anybody has any questions about how to be a volunteer or would like more information about that, they can always contact the CASA office at 812-752-4748.
You can find us on the Facebook page, Scott County CASA, and on that link you will also find a link to our website. There is an application link there as well. Feel free to go in and look at all the great things that we do in CASA.